Hey guys, it's Adrian with the Upholstery Studio, and in this video I'm going to be reupholstering a pair of teak Helm chairs that belong on a 1980s Blackwell sport fishing yacht. I'm actually really excited about these. It's not often I get to work on teak Helm chairs. So here's what the chair looked like beforehand. You can see it had more of a tan, yellowy kind of vinyl. It's getting really old. It started cracking a little bit. You can see it's just kind of dirty. All in all, they're not bad at all for how old the boat is, but it is about time to redo them. Just like in every single one of my videos, if I'm making something off of the original, I always start with covering the original in match marks. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the old vinyl for this entire seat as the pattern for both of these chairs. Once you get the match marks, you're just going to cut all the pieces separately at all of the seams. And then once you get all that done, you are going to trace them down onto your new material. Make sure you remember to draw all of your match marks because that is really going to save you when doing complicated seats like this one. The best piece of advice I can give you if you're trying to start this or if you're new, trying to teach yourself, whatever it may be, is to put it back together the same way you tore it apart. As silly and simple as that sounds, that's exactly what I did with these chairs, because to be technical, I have never made a chair like this one, especially with the armrest. I took mental notes and plenty of pictures beforehand so I could reference, and I just put it back together the exact same way I tore it apart, and you can see how they ended up. That is how I approach every single job. Y'all might have noticed that I'm gluing sew foam to all of these panels, and if you paid attention, the original seats did not have this. I generally like to do this with older cushions, especially if they're really old, because these are from the 80s. It does a really good job at correcting any weird stuff that may show up in the end, and fills out the voids quite nicely and helps the original foam just really fit good. And it gives it a nice quality look to it, in my opinion. I have two announcements I would like to share with all of you. And there are two things I have been looking forward to ever since I started this YouTube channel. The first one being, holy cow, over 1,000 subscribers already. The channel isn't even a year old. I'm amazed that one of you want to hear my silly nonsense, let alone over 1,000. That is crazy. Y'all are crazy. I love all of you. And you know what? While we're at it, you should go ahead and subscribe. More so than reaching 1,000 subscribers, I have been looking forward to my first authentic troll comment because I genuinely like the troll comments. I think they're funny and I like to mess around with those people a little bit. So here's what the comment said. And unfortunately, they didn't really go that crazy. They're just complaining about how long one of my live streams are. So I don't have much to work with here. So what I'm going to do as retaliation is an 8-hour long live stream. While I'm on the topic of live streams, if you want to know more about upholstery and really learn, I always do my live streams completely unedited, whatever I'm doing from start to finish. And you can feel free to ask me any questions. There have been a few people that have asked me questions about what I'm doing, and I'm really able to explain clearly and really teach a lot better than I can in a regular video. Back to what I'm doing in this video, I'm sewing this backrest together, and honestly, all the steps to this point are very simple. Again, you just tear it apart and put it back together the exact same way you took it apart. And you can see on the seam allowance where I have all those match marks, that is my guide on how to line up all of these pieces. I'm telling you, you should really not forget to put those. They are a huge savior. The only thing about sewing this together with all this sew foam, it does get a little thick in some spots, and it's foam, so it's not impossible to sew through. It does make it just a little challenging. And once you're finished sewing, you're going to go ahead and turn it inside out. Make sure you are being cautious with the ends of the zipper. In my experience, those tend to rip if you're not paying attention, so just be really careful on all those tricky spots when you're doing it inside out. Now that we got the backrest done, we're going to work on the seat base. And again, we are going to follow those exact same steps. Take the seats apart, put our match marks down, trace them. The only difference between the backrest and the seat base is the shapes of the panels. Other than that, they are the exact same. So when I was stuffing the foam for the seat base, I decided not to put any plastic on it just because I thought I could get the foam on the skin just fine. And I did. It wasn't really that difficult. It did add a little bit more difficulty without it. But to be perfectly honest, the plastic is completely optional. I know some people never use plastic. I almost always do. There are just certain occasions where I don't. All I'm doing here is just sliding the seat base and the backrest on just to get an idea on how they fit, because they are completely done. And I'm going to be honest, I'm quite pleased with myself. They turned out pretty good, and I got to give props to the customer. They chose quite a good color. I think it matches the teak really well. As for the armrests, these were really tricky. They're pretty simple to take off. They're just held with Christmas trees and 2 screws. Basically, you just pry it off. Now, if you notice, the other armrest is completely done, and I did that off camera. The reason why is because I have actually never done these types of armrests before, because these are completely glued on, and that can be very tricky to get the material to actually look somewhat decent. So I did that off camera so I could figure out the best way to do it. And I ended up coming up with a pretty good method. Now the stuff you see me taking the staples out of, that is just simple end caps and a little bit of welt cord. All you need to do is just staple that on. It's actually really easy. And again, make sure you take pictures so you know how to put it on exactly. The actual panel itself is the difficult part. And I would just like to say thank you all so much for all the nice comments y'all have left. They really do make my entire week. As I'm sure you guys can assume, I pretty much just live inside my garage with the door closed doing upholstery, so I don't really go out and make a whole lot of friends. Therefore, I see all of you guys as my friends. Except for the one guy who's complaining how long my live streams are. He is not my friend, but the rest of y'all are. One thing I've noticed throughout my upholstery career is the better I get at making stuff, the better I get at breaking stuff. There was a turning point where I really started to make some seriously cool upholstery, and at the same time, I went through a crazy streak of absolutely destroying a lot of my stuff. For example, I went through a 2-month streak of breaking like 14 phones. I started with an iPhone. Unfortunately, that one fell out of my pocket as I was hopping onto a boat, and it is currently in the river. After that, I got another iPhone, and I went to an amusement park. It was in my pocket, and this is a little irresponsible of me, but it fell out of my pocket. Luckily, it didn't hit anybody, but it did hurl at the concrete going about 100 miles an hour and shattered into a million pieces. After that one, I went to Walmart, and I got a prepaid phone. That was about $100, and I accidentally stepped on that one. I was underneath the boat, fell out of my pocket, and I stepped to the right and completely crushed it. After that one, I then got an even cheaper prepaid phone, and as it was in my pocket, I leaned against the table and somehow broke the phone in half just with my body weight. Now, is there actually a relation between me being good at upholstery and also breaking stuff? Probably not. But it is weird. I went through such a serious 2-month breaking streak. Now back to the video. The way I went about putting on these armrests, I glued them on with basic contact cement. I actually got this stuff at Walmart, and the best way I found to use it, make sure to really clean off the surface you're going to be putting the glue on, and then put the glue on the entire perimeter all at once. Let that sit for about 15 to 20 minutes, and it'll get nice and tacky. That way you can immediately go ahead and start sticking on the vinyl, and it'll really grab immediately instead of you having to hold it for like 15 minutes. Now that's not 100% perfect. You'll have to play around with it a little bit, but as a general rule of thumb, that worked out really good for me. And basically all you need to do to put this thing on is to line the Christmas trees up with a hole and then just smash them into place. Ow! God, I hit the fuck out of my hand. Now, I know I'm such a manly man with testosterone just flowing through my veins, and it's kind of hard to tell when something actually hurts me, but take my word for it, that actually hurt really bad. Now, once you get those Christmas trees in, all you have to do after that is just screw that bottom lip to the underside of the armrest. After those two armrests, the seat is now completely done. And what you see me doing here is assembling everything together for the first time. The backrest is actually really easy to take in and out. It is held in with two simple pins and really makes these seats super convenient to work with. I mentioned in the beginning of this video, these seats are going on a Blackwell sport fishing yacht, and these are quite older. That is why you see all these chips in the varnish. Unfortunately, I am not going to be fixing those. I am leaving those as is, but for a seat that's older than me, I think this thing still looks pretty damn good. And here's the actual boat these seats are going on. Again, it's a Blackwell, and for how old it has been really well maintained. Here's a little bit of footage of these seats on the actual boat in the sunlight. I gotta say, I'm pretty pleased with myself. Sometimes there are just some seats that you do and you just don't want to look away from them, and this is definitely one of them. I really want to do one of these again. And if you're curious as to all of the tools I used in this video, I'm going to leave a link down in the description for all of that. So if you're curious, go check that out. If y'all want to help the algorithm push this video to more people for me, I would appreciate if y'all drop a like, and I will see you guys in the next one.